Batman, One Bad Day, Penguin issue 1, John Ridley writing with Giuseppe Camuncoli on the art. So obviously these have all been very different to each other. Tamaki's Two-Face issue practically felt in continuity. Maybe it isn't by the end and they're never going to reference it, but it felt like it was set after her run. Whereas
it felt like it could have been the next Detective Comics run if they wanted it to be.
And then King's Riddler story felt like, no, this is completely separate on its own little pocket of the world. And it's this very different version of Riddler. It was probably, it was the best one of the two.
So far,
Yeah. And then obviously here we have John Ridley writing Penguin. And this one actually, unlike the other two, I would say feels more like it's Penguin's, because I still say Batman's the main character in those other books, those other issues.
Because he's the character and it's his experience with those characters.
Yeah. This is a lot. Maybe it's 50-50. No pun intended with Two-Face, because it kind of did show a lot of him trying to be good as well in that book. This year, though, this was Penguin as the protagonist. Penguin was the main character of this issue.
Yeah, I haven't read any of the Parker books, but from what I can gather, this is basically the Penguin meets Parker. It feels very grimy crime guy starting at the bottom and crawling his way to the top. And I did not think we were going to get that story out of Penguin, or to be as enjoyable as it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of pages, so I don't necessarily want to go through it, scene for scene, but you get this sad version of Penguin who we find out has been run out of the city some time ago by some new crime boss called Umbrella Man, and
Kite Man's in shambles.
Yeah, I know. And this Penguin is like, it's him trying to get back into the city, and it starts with him buying a gun off some thug, and he only gives him one bullet. So that's all he's got. He's got a gun with one bullet, and I thought, that's going to come into play. But then he actually ends up using it quite quickly, and he ends up with a gun with 3 bullets off of his old lead henchman or whoever it is.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so now he's got a gun with 3 bullets. He's moving up in the world, and he keeps sort of leveling up. Like every single meeting he has with someone to try and gain power, because his plan is to take out Umbrella Man and retake Gotham City. Every time it's like, okay, this is a failure, but no, he actually picks up like this ally here when the small woman who comes to help him.
Yeah, I'm pulling up her name right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the book open in front of me.
And there's the new guy who turns into his new henchman as well.
Yes.
Like, so he keeps picking up something each time that suggests, even though this looks like a great failure, he is actually building more of a team the more he goes.
That's what I like, is that he parlays the gun with 1 bullet to a gun with 3 bullets to a henchman to an old friend, and it's like he's assembling a crew, and he's doing it level by level. And he's starting to gain, his whole reputation back as Penguin. And, the whole fact that who the Umbrella Man ends up being and stuff, I thought was also a fun reveal, because,
go on.
When we meet Penguin, so I don't know if we were going to spoil it right away, but the reason he's called the Umbrella Man is because he was Penguin's guy that held the umbrella. And he got tired of seeing Penguin basically manage everything and not ever get his hands dirty. And he decided to take Penguin out of the equation. But, as I learned from watching a season and a half of Boardwalk Empire, you can't be half a gangster. And that ends up being Umbrella Man's undoing, is that Penguin is fully about this life.
Well, I think the most interesting thing to me about this issue is the idea that Penguin is a very organized criminal, and that he keeps because we keep hearing in this issue that the city is much worse than it was when Penguin was in charge of the crime. The idea that Umbrella Man has turned it into a Wild West where it doesn't matter what, you make money any way you can as long as I get a cut. So crime's actually worse. There's more sex trafficking. There's more dangerous things happening on the street. We see the few times we do see Batman, he's constantly overrun and he can't get to everything quick enough. The police are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Everything's much worse.
Even Montoya is telling him, I don't know how you're going to handle all of this.
Yeah, everything's so much worse. So this book is, in a lot of ways, is trying to tell us that Penguin's almost this necessary evil because he has a code. There's a hierarchy to him, and as much as he is a criminal, he does keep the criminals in some level of check so that things are... And, when he eventually confronts Batman, he's like, you have to accept the fact that you weren't the one that kept Gotham the way it was. I was the one who kept Gotham at the level it was at, and without me, this is the chaos it turns to. There's like a sort of necessarily evil. So the big dramatic thing towards the end, which is Penguin's going off to take out Umbrella Man. He's like, "You're going to go let me take out Umbrella Man because that's how this city's going back to normal."
You want the order?
Yeah,
I can give you the order. So just look that way while I take care of business. And that was the most chilling part, right? Like, is the fact that Penguin is so confident in lording this over Batman's head that it's his main villain moment. Because I don't think of Penguin as like this big scary villain, but in that moment, he is. It's very, you know, not to bring everything back to wrestling, it is very Paul Heyman. You know, I'm the one that kept all this in check.
You're just saying that because he could play the Penguin if he wanted to.
Well, there's that, but it's the fact that there's this unassuming person that's not a physical threat, but it's his brain that's the threat.
Mm.
You know, the fact that Penguin talks people into doing stuff for him. The one lady who I couldn't find her name, I don't, because my iPad's going slow right now. But the fact that she wanted nothing to do with him, and then he's able to kind of talk her into joining up by bringing up their past and whatnot, and then how he talks the one henchman into like, no man, you're a badass, even though he misses the shot with the 3 bullets that they only have. They're able to talk those people into like, oh no, he did that on purpose because, you know. So it's just the fact that Penguin does all this with words, right? Like, sure, he has thugs that, you know, do things, but he is a master of business.
It's a really funny moment actually that this new guy is nervous. Like, he fires the 3 shots, he doesn't hit anyone, and like, you know, Penguin's like, didn't even hit one, right?
One.
There's a moment in a minute where one of the thugs they're talking to says something like, I don't know, we were in danger for our lives, and like I think her name is Buster.
Yeah, that's the name she doesn't want to be called, but then she ends up owning up to it.
Yeah. Well, her actual name is Lily, I think, but
there you go.
She like says, "Oh no, you have no idea how little chance there was of anyone." Like getting shot, kind of thing. Like, yeah, it was a really funny little beat. That just there was a nice level of humor sort of sprinkled in here to keep it kind of light at times. You know, Penguin goes into his backstory at one point about how all the kids hated him and people only came to his birthday party because someone, you know, his mother paid them off, and that's why he kind of like started this idea of like, well, no one's ever going to accept him for who he is, so getting money and power is how he attains like the respect from people around him, and he's determined to get that back. So it, you know, I think he goes to like his money man who he eventually has to kill. That's where the big shooting thing happens that we were joking about. Umbrella Man kills him for giving up some of his money to Penguin. They end up getting allies at this sort of like lady gang who have a lot of guns. They come and help him.
Which, yeah, at first they turn him down because they're like, we're not getting involved in this. So, yeah, I was talking about Lily, and I was trying to find her. It looks as of right now, this is her first appearance. But it's someone that Penguin's a lot like because they're both physically different, and people don't think a lot of them. And then that's how they kind of are able to pull moves.
Yeah, she's not very happy with them, though, and that's the other running theme of this book, is that everyone that Penguin worked with in the past hates his guts because he was a shithead to them. And maybe if he's going to learn a lesson from this, is that he should probably keep the people he's with, you know, because none of them want him to get power again. Most of them are happy to see him down in the dumps because screw him.
And that's the funny thing too, is that they're okay with the imbalance of power, right? That now, even though that Umbrella Man took over, Penguin's not the one doing it anymore. And they seem to be okay. Oh, I remember what it was now. We're talking about the girl gang. And that
there you go.
Penguin goes to talk to them, and they're kind of like, no, we're not getting involved in this. And because someone saw Penguin go talk to them, it puts a target on them, and Umbrella Man sends his people over.
Yeah, most of them die. It's only the main girl and maybe like two of her people who survive, and they're like, okay, we're going to team up with Penguin now because F this guy.
Yeah, it becomes personal. And so it's all like through this, you know, series of events that Penguin is orchestrated, that he's able to turn the tides. And then even with that chilling talk with Batman is the final.
Which I actually love how the build up to that is they're walking down the street on the way to the Iceberg Lounge to make their big confrontation, and Batman's just standing there waiting because, like, you know, he's anticipating this because he's Batman and he knows what he's doing. And Penguin's like, no, I'm just going to talk to him, and explains why he has to let him do this. And sure enough, Batman goes off to go and save other people because, as we've seen throughout the issue, there's always someone to go save in Gotham right now, or at least some criminal to stop. It does paint a sort of darker world that they're in. And we get this big action sequences. They're coming into the Iceberg Lounge with like the Umbrella Man's goons are like waiting behind all the cars with guns and things like that. But ultimately, you know, Penguin gets beat up quite a bit, but he acts like an animal and lunges at him and bites out his throat. It's really, you know, it's nasty.
It's pretty rad.
Yeah, without going Black Label territory and showing it, because it kind of covers it with the sound effect words and things like that. But pretty vicious, pretty visceral looking. And
the fact that you get the silhouette, which we really don't see because they're pretty upfront with the violence until this one.
Yeah.
So it makes it seem even more horrific that they're covering it up.
Absolutely. You know, it cuts to some, 5 months later, and like, yeah, Batman shows up to talk to Penguin, who's, got his expensive coat on, he's got his monocle, his hat, he's back on top of the world. But it seems like this time he has kept everyone who helped him get his power back. They're all there and they're all in good positions around him. So maybe he has learned some kind of lesson. This is kind of a like
for now.
Yeah, like this was an enjoyable read, I would say. There was times where I was like finding myself chuckling at what was happening. I kind of like this like certainty that Penguin, as much as he looks like a loser, he probably is going to succeed here, and you kind of have that feeling. Like everyone keeps doubting him and saying he only has a gun with 3 bullets in it, but I'm like, something tells me that's going to be enough. Or at the very least, it shows you how every time he trades what he's got for something better. From a gun with 1 bullet to 3 bullets, to a gun with 3 bullets to a henchman. From a henchman to like 2 hench people.
Crew.
Yeah, it keeps going up and up. It's kind of like a very truncated like Penguin Breaking Bad style story.
Yeah, no, it is very Breaking Bad. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
because he started from the bottom after being deposed, and he climbs his way back and shows why he's the gentleman of crime.
Yeah, what did you...
Elliot. Elliot's the henchman that does it because that's supposed to be the code.
Yeah.
And then, even though this kid throws up after he, fires a gun at people, doesn't kill anybody. By the end of the book, he's his muscle now. And it's just a lot of good character stuff in here.
What did you think of Cameron Cooley's art?
It's good. It feels like there's another artist that it feels like, and I can't think of it right now. But it's just very basic, and it fit this book real well.
It's a little house style, I'd say.
Yeah, house style, I guess. But there's a dinginess to the part at the front, and then a cleanliness to the part of the back. It's like it gets more defined, almost like Penguin does, until that point where he becomes an animal, and the pages reflect that. So, but yeah, no, it's pretty decent. Nothing like Garrett's art in that Riddler book really stands out.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right?
No,
So,
it's kind of a tough art to talk about because I think it's just okay. There's nothing really wrong with it too much, other than maybe the odd little face that's kind of like a little bit too squished in. But at the same time, there's nothing that kind of wows me about it either, or like there's nothing that really sticks out to me as like, oh, this is a great piece of art. It looks fine, and overall, I kind of like what this issue's doing. I do think it's the weakest of the 3 One Bad Day books we've had so far, but that's not to say it's bad or not worth reading. No. It's just not as... I'd say, the Riddler one still comes out on top. That feels really special. The Two-Face one, I'd say, is a bit better than this because it kind of played some fun with Harvey's character. This was just kind of a nice criminal story, I guess. Yeah,
the Two-Face one did have kind of a surprise in it, whereas this one is straightforward as it gets.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like a caper or anything. It just feels like Penguin's on a mission.
And that's not to say that it's not good at what it's doing, which is it's showing that Penguin's good at what he does, right? And why Penguin had power, why Cobblepot did get into the position he was in the first place. But at the same time, this idea, like I kind of like the point that part of the reason why Gotham's at a reasonable level for crime is because Penguin's actually the one on the other side of the equation who's keeping it that way. I do think the book maybe oversells it a little bit. This idea that if he wasn't around, it would turn into like no man's land almost, and Batman would be struggling.
Right.
That's maybe making him feel a bit too important, but I do like the sentiment overall that it's going for.
Right. Well, and this one kind of loses the thread too of what a one bad day is, because you feel like this takes place over the course of a week or so. And so, like, what was the one bad day? Is it for Batman? Is it him having to admit that Penguin keeps the city in line?
I would probably guess that's what the real one bad day is. It's Batman admitting that he needs Penguin to keep the order on the other side of the fence. But you could also say it's just a long bad day because of the way Gotham is for Batman, or it's a long bad day for Penguin because he lost everything and this is him coming back.
Yeah.
But certainly Batman having to admit that he needs Penguin to be in power, at least to some extent, is I'd say that's probably the most poignant thing to say that the one bad day is. But so I think it's an enjoyable issue. It was an easy enough read as well, certainly. So what are you giving One Bad Day Penguin?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Yeah, that sounds about fair to me. 7.5 sounds good. Yeah. Pretty good, but not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good.